Hi, I'm Murray Feiss with the Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture. Today we'll be talking about environmental health and grazing with bison. On my operation, I try and move my bison every 3 to 7 days depending on the paddock size. It seems like if I get longer grazing periods than that, I end up kind of setting my grasses back a little bit, to lose a little bit of diversity. But if I keep them short and then keep my rest periods as long as I can, 60 to 90 days, I get a good return of all my species, and then I get good fall grazing as well out of that sort of program. I use quite a mixture of forages. I use alfalfa, sainfoin, Sicer milk vetch, red clover, Alsite clover, and a few other ones. And then as far as grasses, meadow brome is my main grass, but I also use fescues, orchard grass, things like that. And then I've started introducing forbs as well, like the blue flower that you can see is chicory, and this field is fairly heavy in chicory for other reasons, but a light dose of that has a really good taproot on it, and it's a forb which is missing from a lot of grazing systems. And it's actually a natural dewormer that helps keep my bison healthy as well and helps their ruminate out. Healthy soil is important. It helps reduce their carbon footprint, I guess you could say. But to me, it's more important just for that improving the water cycle. The more carbon we have in the soil, the more water holding capacity we have. I think they say for every 1% organic matter you increase your water holding capacity by about 1 inch, which is pretty significant when our rains are as hit and miss as they are in the last few years. So,
most of our pastures, we start with lots of alfalfa and meadow brome. Some brome grass. We'll probably put some timothy in there for the low-lying areas. For fertilizer, we move our animals probably every week, and we're organic. So we spread a lot of our own manure back on the pastures, and it makes a big difference. We don't like to go any more than 1 week in between our rotations, because then they always seem to go back to the stuff they've eaten. And these animals will be, the pasture will be like this and will be freezing. So they'll keep on grazing.
We're growing lots of different grasses. We like brome, fescue, timothy, orchard grass, rye grass. Those are kind of the base grasses that we grow. We're also growing different legumes like sainfoin. Alfalfa is a big one for us. And then we're experimenting with things like phacelia, plantain, chicory. The list goes on. There's a lot of different things that we're growing and trying for different reasons. Bison are very efficient grazers, so they can do a lot with little. They don't stay in one spot too long. They're always on the move. We see an entire ecosystem kind of coming together with the bison and the plants and all the insects that are going on. And so we're really looking to take nature and put it all together in the way that, it all works together well.
Well, as you can see maybe in the backdrop here, we're in the boreal forest here where, so we go from heavy bush to open natural grasslands to meadows to creeks to beaver dams. We're not so much into intensive grazing per se, like cross fencing like a lot of people are, but we do manage our pastures so that we give them a rest. As you can see from the grass here, this hasn't been grazed this year. This will be winter grazing probably because, they can go through the snow and graze. You can see there is some alfalfa here, milk vetch, brome, different grasses. So this will be a really good winter pasture. We're kind of going away from doing any kind of land breaking or cultivating. Our way of maintaining the grass is we do winter bale grazing basically, where we pick a different area, we set out the bales, we let them graze there. They fertilize it really well, and it just brings back the grass naturally. So if we can keep rotating them around like that in our system, that seems to work pretty good.
Bison are really selective grazers, and they'll eat different plants at different stages of the year. As you can see, there's the brome grass around us here, and there's some of it that they haven't touched yet. And they'll probably leave it until the fall, and when the weather's colder, for whatever reason, maybe they want that extra energy punch that these small grass seeds carry. I guess what I look for in a system like this where it is lighter soil, I don't want to overgraze it because we've got probably ½ an inch of topsoil, especially maybe on this hilltop where we are right now. So I want to make sure that I try and leave probably 1/3 of the plant remaining. We try and go over all of our ground at least twice in the year and try and capitalize on some of that regrowth even in the late fall, and just have that animal impact, whether it's their hoof action or the manure and the byproduct from them.
So to get the most out of our land, I guess we're trying to keep it very productive, and we found that you should be redoing your pastures probably every 15 years. We've done it up to 30 years, and that was the case on this home section. So what we started to do was spray a paddock out in the fall, and then following spring, zero-till a cover crop into it. This you see is oats. And then we'll graze it. We usually graze it, say, 1st of July, and that'll be their flush. They'll be on here for like 3 weeks. We will get way more production growing a cover crop. This is mainly oats than we would an older pasture, so we don't need to cut our cow numbers down or anything. And we'll graze it, say, 2 years in a row with cover crops to give the sod enough time to break down. And then once the sod's broken down enough, we'll seed our pasture mix back into it. And we'll eventually make it over, we'll do the same process over all 7 paddocks. And yeah, we just found it's a cheap way of redoing your pastures and improving productivity. Pasture blend, we find the bison are more, they prefer grasses. Even the nice alfalfas taste a little bit strong at times. So generally, say 5 pounds of alfalfa, spreader type alfalfa, and then we'll do probably 6 to 8 pounds meadow brome. Meadow brome is a real good one for this area. Pound of timothy, a pound, maybe 2 pounds of smooth brome, and its role is just to take over once your other grasses start to die out, because we don't want any open ground. And then we'll also do a little bit of clover. They like clover, and it produces nitrogen. And then one thing we found here was orchard grass grows well too, and it doesn't seem to winter kill. We actually started seeing it after grazing bales with it in it, and it just kept growing, and the bison really liked it. So it's something we started putting not only in our hay blends, but in our pasture blends.
So range health is the ability of rangeland to perform certain key functions, including productivity, site stability, capture and slow release of water, nutrient cycling, and plant species diversity. Range health can be assessed using what's called a range health assessment. There are several different types of assessments depending on what type of pasture you have. There are tame and native grassland, forest, and riparian health assessments. Some of the things that we look for during the health assessments are plant species, litter, which is the previous year's ungrazed plant material, including standing dead, dying, and slightly decomposing plant material covering the soil surface, invasive species, including noxious weeds, bare soil, and soil erosion. The best time to assess range health is during the summer months when plants are actively growing. So this can be any time between June and mid-September. Having a properly stocked, healthy pasture can lower feed and maintenance costs, decrease the incidence of noxious weeds, increase production stability during poor growing conditions, and support the proper physical, nutritional, and reproductive health of the herd. When a pasture is in poor condition, it can be very difficult and costly in order to get it back up into healthy condition. So that is why it's super important to notice the changes and the decline in pasture health and implement management changes as soon as possible. Some of these changes can be increasing your cross fencing, spraying out some of the noxious weeds, rotating your pastures and grazing them at different times of the year, resting a pasture a year, coming up with a grazing plan and setting yourself up for the next grazing season as best you can, and setting proper stocking rates. So stocking rate is the number of animal units that a pasture can sustain over a certain period of time, which is typically a grazing season. This is not to be confused with carrying capacity, which is the average number of animal units that a pasture can sustain over a long period of time. Carrying capacity will remain constant over time, where your stocking rate will fluctuate from year to year due to things like moisture availability, age, and condition of stand.